In the division problem, 15 divided by 3 equals 5. 15 is called the dividend. 3 is considered the divisor. The divisor tells us how many groups of the dividend we are going to make. 5 would be the quotient or the solution to the division problem. In this case, if I divide 15 into 3 equal groups, then there will be 5 in each of the 3 groups. Quotients can be written in other ways as well. They can be written as fractions. So this fraction really says 15 divided by 3 equals 5. They can also be written with a long division symbol. When you are writing in long division, you have to remember that your dividend will always go inside of your long division symbol. Your divisor will go on the outside. For the problem 612 divided by 4, I know that 612 is my dividend. So I'm going to start by writing 612, and I'm going to put that inside of my long division symbol. The divisor of 4 will go on the outside. When I divide, I need to divide every digit in my dividend by my divisor of 4. So I start with 6. 6 divided by 4 is 1 with some left over. So I'm going to place a 1 above my 6. I need to know how much was left over. So to do that, I'm going to multiply 1 times my divisor of 4. 1 times 4 gives me 4. And now I'm going to subtract to see what I'm left with. 6 minus 4 gives me 2. Now I'm going to bring down the next digit in my dividend, which is 1. And now I'm going to ask myself, what is 21 divided by 4? 21 divided by 4 is 5, so I'm going to place that above my 1. 5 times 4 is 20, so I'm going to write that here to figure out how much I'm left with. 21 minus 20 gives me 1. I still have this 2 in my dividend, and I'm going to bring it down now. So now I'm going to ask, what is 12 divided by 4? 12 divided by 4 is 3. And if I do 3 times 4, I get 12. And when I subtract, I'm left with 0. So that means that the quotient of 612 and 4 is 153. For 5,148 divided by 12, I'm going to start again by writing my dividend and putting it in my long division symbol, and my divisor of 12 will go on the outside. I'm going to start with 5, but I know that 12 is larger than 5, so I cannot divide 5 into 12 equal pieces. So because of that, I'm going to move over a space, and I'm going to look at 51. 51 is larger than 12, so I can break this up. I know that there are 4 whole 12s in 51, so I'm going to place my 4 above the 1 instead of above the 5 because it did not go into 5, it went into 51. 4 times 12 gives me 48, and now I need to see how much I'm left with, so I'm going to subtract. 51 minus 48 gives me 3. I have a 4 that I'm going to bring down, and now I'm going to divide 34 by 12. When I divide 34 by 12, I get 2, which goes above this 4. 2 times 12 is 24, so I will subtract from 34 to see what I'm left with. 34 minus 24 is 10. Now I still have an 8 in my dividend, so I'm going to bring it down. And 108 divided by 12 gives me 9. 9 times 12 is 108, so when I do this, I'm left with 0. That means that the quotient of 5,148 and 12 is 429. For 388 divided by 16, I'm going to start with my dividend of 388, and I'm going to divide by my divisor of 16. Now, I cannot divide 3 by 16, so I'm going to move over to my 8, and I'm going to divide 38 by 16. I know that there are 2 whole 16s in 38, and I'm going to place my 2 above my 8 instead of above my 3. Now I'm going to multiply 2 times 16, which gives me 32, and I'm going to subtract. 38 minus 32 gives me 6. Now I will bring down my 8. And now I need to find out what is 68 divided by 16. Well, I know that 16 will not go evenly into 68, but if I look at my directions, it says find the whole number quotient and the remainder, which means we don't expect this number to go in fully. I do know that there are 4 wholes of 16 and 68, so I can do 4 times 16, and when I do 4 times 16, I get 64. And when I subtract, I'm left with 4. At this point, there's nothing left for me to bring down. So that means that if I divide 388 into 16 equal groups, I will have 24 in each group, and I will have a remainder of 4 that cannot be placed in equal groups. For this problem, 660 divided by 24, I'm going to start with my dividend of 660 and divide by my divisor of 24. If I look in my directions, this says find the quotient without a remainder. So if this has a remainder, we're going to have to do something a little bit special. I know that I can't divide 6 by 24, so I'm going to move over to 66. And if I do 66 divided by 24, 24 will go into 66 2 times. Again, I place the 2 above my second 6 instead of the first one. 2 times 24 is 48, and now I'm going to subtract. When I do 66 minus 48, I get 18. Now I need to bring my 0 down. Now I'm going to ask myself, what is 180 divided by 24? Well, if I do 180 divided by 24, I know that it will not go in equally, but I know that it goes in about 7 times. 7 times 24 is 168. And when I subtract, I'm left with 12. Now, there's nothing left for me to bring down, but my direction says that they want this without a remainder. So I can always add a decimal, and if I add a decimal in my dividend, I need to add a decimal in my quotient. Once I add a decimal, I can add a 0 because that 0 does not change the value of 660. Now I can bring this 0 down, and I can ask myself, what is 120 divided by 24? When I do 120 divided by 24, I get 5. Then when I multiply 5 times 24, I get 120, and I'm left with a 0 remainder. So the quotient here is 27.5.